So this video is for those of you that are having trouble understanding compound inequalities and how to answer those and or problems. So before I get started, I should note that I'm making a couple assumptions in doing this worksheet with you guys. I'm assuming you know how to solve an inequality. You can do the algebra part. I'm assuming you know how to graph an inequality on a number line. And I'm also assuming you know when to use brackets and parentheses, meaning you have a pretty good grasp of interval notation. So if you need help with any of these things, check out the links on the left. Okay, so what we have here is a little worksheet, and I have and or problems lined up on each side, but they've already been solved. Each inequality has already been broken down to x is less than 5 and x is less than -2, and what I do is I just flip the inequality symbols for each problem. So let's get started. The first thing we want to do, even if it doesn't ask us to graph it, we're going to graph it anyway. So I've made us a little number line, and the very first thing I like to do with my number lines is label my infinities. Negative infinity sits over here on the left, and positive infinity sits on the right. And I'm just going to go ahead and do this guy too. That way, it's a good little reminder for myself that there really is a number down there. Okay, so x is less than -5 will be graphed with a parentheses, and it will go to the left forever and ever and ever. And I'm going to go ahead and do this one. This is the same problem with just a different word over here. And now I'm going to do x is less than -2. It'll go in the same direction. Okay, now comes the point where I actually stop and I'll look at the word and ask the question, where do my colors overlap each other? Look right here. This is kind of what I want you to look at. Where do my colors overlap each other? And what I want you to do now is answer that question by putting a box around the place where the colors overlap. So if I was to do that, I'd put a box right in here, because that's where the blue and the red are sitting on top of each other from here to here. So the way I like to do this in interval notation is I drop a line on each side of the box, and I put a comma between, and I always go from left number to the right number. So they overlap from negative infinity to -2. There is a parentheses on the -2, so I'll put a parentheses here. Negative and positive infinity always get parentheses. So now I want to come over and look at this one. This is an or question, so I look up top. Here's what or says to ask yourself. What part of the number line did I color on? Notice it doesn't say anything about red or blue or where they overlap. I don't care where they overlap. I just want to know what part of this number line has color on it. If I look at the end here, this is the place where it doesn't have color on it. So the place where it does have color must be all of this area right in here. So again, to do this, I go from this end of the box, to this end of the box. So what's sitting at this end? Negative infinity. Comma. What's at this end of the box? Well, 5. 5 had a parentheses on it, so I put a parentheses. Negative infinity always gets a parentheses. So let's do another one. Let me graph it really quick. X is less than 5. We'll go to the left. I'm going to do the same one. This is the same problem. X is greater than -2 is going to go this way. Alright. Now that I have them graphed, I stop and I look at the word. This word is and. What does and say? Where do the colors overlap each other? And let's just common sense answer, well, they overlap each other right through here. So I'm going to put a box around that. This is where they overlap. And remember, the way we do interval notation is left end of the box, comma, right end of the box. The 5 had a parentheses, and so did the -2. Alright, let's look at the or problem. Right here, this one says, what part of the number line did I color on? Anytime you see that word, this is the question you ask. What part of the number line did I color on? And if I stop, well, if I look at just this part has red, this part has both, and this part has blue. So it kind of looks like I colored on all of it. And I did. I colored on all of it. So I put a box around the whole thing. That's okay. So what's at the left end of my box? Negative infinity, comma, and then what's at the right end of my box? Well, an infinity. And infinities always get parentheses. Alright, let's do another one. X is greater than 5. That'll be graphed this way. X is greater than negative 2 will go this way. Okay, so again, let's look at the word. And. What does and mean? Let's look back up here. Where do my colors what? Overlap. So where do my colors overlap each other in this problem? Well, let's put a box around it from here to here. So it's left end of the box, comma, right end of the box. 5 to infinity. Then I come over here and I have or. What does or tell us to ask ourselves? What part of the number line did I color on? So I come back down here and I'm like, well, I do know that the part that I didn't color on is over here, so the part that has color on it, the part of the number line that has color on it, must be from negative 2 all the way that way. So from negative 2 to infinity has color on it. In this example. Alright, let's do one more. X is greater than 5. Goes this way. Same problem here. X is less than negative 2. Goes this way. Same here. Okay. Then I'll look at the word in the middle. What is it? And. What does and tell us to ask? Where do our colors overlap? So, come back down. And it's kind of a trick question here. Let's look at this. Where do our colors overlap? Well, the obvious answer is they don't. They do not sit on top of each other anywhere. So, this one is actually no solution, because our colors don't overlap. This one doesn't have an answer. Okay? So let's look at this. This one says or. What does or tell us to ask ourselves? What part of the number line did I color on? So come back down here. What part of this number line has color on it? Well, common sense answer says I colored here, but then I didn't color here, but then I colored here again. So I kind of colored in two separate spaces, didn't I? I colored here, and then I came over here and colored here. So I'm going to go ahead and make intervals out of these things. So I have negative infinity to negative 2 for the first one, and then I have 5 to positive infinity for the second one, but then I've got that big jump in the middle that's kind of weird. So anytime you have a jump in the middle of your two intervals like that, you want to join your intervals with a union symbol. It's a big U like that. Now I want you to notice that we did 4 OR problems. A lot of people get confused on this. Anytime they say OR, they think, oh, I'm supposed to use the union symbol. Well, no, not necessarily. We did 1, 2, 3, 4 OR problems, and we only used that union symbol one time, and it was when we had 2 separate intervals that had a big jump between, okay? Hopefully this helps you out.